Hello and welcome to the Tonic Weight Loss Podcast. My name is Harry Hedges. I'm your host today, and today I have a very special guest for different reasons. Not only is she one of our wonderful Tonic patients, but she's also one of our wonderful Tonic patient coordinators. That's right, I'm here with Mel. How are we doing, Mel? You okay?
Yes, really happy to be here, really excited.
Great stuff. And people will probably recognise your voice because you've helped so many patients set up their surgery, coordinate their surgery.
Yeah.
And before absolutely. And before we go down that road, what I'm keen to talk about is actually Mel before the operation. I mean, before Tonic, if you like, because you speak to a lot of people, and I'm sure you identify different traits as to certain reasons as to why weight loss might be tricky for different reasons. But what was Mel's story pre-op, and what brought you down that road?
Well, I've worked in this industry for a number of years now, whether it be dental, cosmetics, weight loss now. And I've always struggled with my weight throughout my adult life. It's something that's always been simmering in the background, I suppose, really. I've tried lots of different things over the years. I think the first time I ever went on a diet, I was probably 17,
Wow.
I'm going to say. 17, maybe 18. That was probably the first time I ever walked into Slimming World. And ever since then, it's been a never-ending struggle, I guess, really.
And kind of like what, really going for it, like maybe detoxing and that sort of yo-yo effect was quite apparent, was it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Every single diet that I tried, inevitably, I would lose a lot of weight, but then I just couldn't sustain it and the weight would come back on. And then sometimes probably even slightly more than when I started. Yeah. So the yo-yo effect was huge for me.
You find that sort of cumulative effect of these fattier type diets where, aggressive weight loss to start with, but can't sustain it. Christmases, holidays, you're entitled to have these occasions and social occasions. And is that something that comes up quite a lot for the patients that are asking you?
Oh yeah, 100%. There's always something that I feel gets in the way.
Yeah.
A lot of the time. There's always a birthday, there's always Christmas, there's always Mother's Day, there's always a holiday, there's always something. But I think when you want it that much, sometimes you just get to a point where it's like, I can't go out for this Mother's Day, or I can't go to this birthday party, but I will be going to the next one.
I think that's a really good way of looking at it, because people sometimes, they are very drawn to these social occasions, but you're better to thrive in these moments rather than kind of just constantly having this cycle of, well, it can feel like quite a vicious cycle sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah.
And was there a certain moment, sometimes patients talking about in the podcast in the past, maybe there's a certain picture or a certain social situation where they're feeling uncomfortable. Was there a certain moment we went, right, enough's enough, I'm going to look into a different option here at all?
Oh yeah, absolutely, for sure. I think I was just noticing that my ability to do things like on holiday and stuff was becoming lesser and lesser. Like, I found that I was falling behind my friends and falling behind my family. I couldn't do certain things like go on big hikes or do certain excursions with certain weight limits and things. Or even if I could, it would be only like just about, and I wouldn't feel comfortable. And I just wanted to get back to the Mel that I was 10 years before, where I could do those things without thinking.
There's definitely a trend of when people have that moment. It's usually a holiday, and I think that's because you're out of your routine. Because sometimes it can be quite a pressure cooker, your routine of, like, not you specifically, but people who are maybe feeling out of control with their weight, is that they, by getting out of routine, they go, wait a minute, I'm identifying things that I don't like elsewhere, and what can I do to change this, And birthdays are another big one. I find birthdays are a really powerful time when people are looking for change. And did you ever consider, the other options out there, maybe going abroad at looking at this? Was that something that maybe you considered?
Oh yeah, I mean, going abroad is one of those things that I've always been aware of, because, it's something that people can do to seek dental work, to seek cosmetic work. So I've known that going abroad has always been an option for a very, very long time for whatever procedure I ever wanted to go down. But for me personally, my boundary was set there. I didn't feel comfortable going abroad. And although I'm sure some people have great experiences, for me, my personal boundary was that I felt I wanted to be closer to home with a trusted, reputable company that's been doing it a long time, that's spent a lot of time and resources into the aftercare and things like that as well. So it wasn't for me.
Fine. And we're exceptionally proud at Tonic of the most trusted company in the UK on Trustpilot. Do you find that something that comes up quite a lot in your intro calls, that people have done their research and they've identified us, and when they're asking you, there's that, I mean, you're the first point of call, aren't you? How important is that trust level to get across to patients in those early stages?
Oh, incredibly important, because it's a very, very vulnerable state to be in when you're at your starting weight. And to get on the phone to somebody and say, hi, this is me, and I think I might need your help.
Yeah, it's huge.
Is quite a pivotal moment for a lot of people, myself included.
And on the aftercare side of things, obviously, you are a patient. How long are you now post-op?
6 months.
6 months, and what you lost, if you don't mind me asking?
5.5, just under 6 stone.
And I know that's not. I know that's not the full story, and we'll talk about all the wonderful non-scale victories that you've obtained. But how important was that aftercare as part of the process? Because it's not just one of these things where you have it done and sit there and you lose weight. There's ways you've got to work with it. How important did you find the psychotherapist, the nurse, the dietitian, the personal trainer?
Oh, incredibly important, because I needed the help to not just, like you say, have the procedure done and to recover and to have that done safely, but to actually tackle the core changes that I needed to make with my lifestyle to make the weight loss that I was going to achieve long term.
Yeah, well, that was the initial thing as well. That was that you're able to lose weight quickly, but that sustainability factor, and you have to work the tool accordingly over the course of time, right? And there are other options out there. I don't think there's an elephant in the room when I sort of say that. Did you consider things like injections or anything like that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think there's always going to be that intrigue for sure. When the weight loss injections arrived on the market, it was a huge wave of interest. It was everywhere that I was looking, because obviously, the algorithm was algorithming. It did crop up quite a lot. But of course, the blessing in disguise for me with my job being a patient coordinator is that I speak to hundreds of patients.
Yes.
When they first inquire. And the reoccurring trend that I was noticing was that, the weight loss injections were working. They were doing their job to a certain extent. They'd maybe lose like a stone or 2 stone. But then when they came off them, that's when the problems started to arise and the weight started to creep back on. Yeah. And I just thought, I've dieted the entirety of my adult life. I didn't want to do that to myself mentally.
No.
I've been there too many times, losing weight, regaining it, losing weight, regaining it. So I just decided it wasn't for me. And my patients wouldn't lie to me,
Well, the thing that you are, like I said, you are the first person to speak to, and the element of trust where they have to confide in you, right? And I think it's really interesting what you said. I love the word algorithming. Is that a word? It should be if it's not. But I love the comparison piece a little bit around that, because on social media you see people's highlight reel, didn't you? You see what their best parts are. And yeah, you saw that on the algorithm like many people do, but you're hearing the hundreds of people saying, wait a minute, this is the stuff actually I'm not willing to post online.
Yeah.
And the stories that you don't always see, you don't see the highlight reel. And and there's loads of data now to show not just weight gain, but also there's a lot of people who are on it. A bit like when they join a gym and they still pay the gym membership because they'll go back there one day. And
that's been me many a time.
Yeah. But the injections, they're on this sort of lower dose because there's this idea that maybe they'll lose weight eventually again when you're back in that cycle again where it's got to be perfect, otherwise nothing's happening. You know. And from what you've had with your post-op and your fabulous weight loss so far, it'd be really great to hear some of the non-scale victories. So, what's your biggest one so far?
Climbing a mountain in Norway, for sure.
Fantastic.
Because I never envisioned myself doing anything like that before. It just wasn't on my bingo card, so to speak. But
Norway as well, it's random.
yeah. So I as soon as I went on that excursion, and the person leading the group said, right, so we're going up this mountain here, and there was cable cars, bear in mind, going to the top of this said mountain. I looked at it and I was like, do I turn around now and go back? Because I can't do that. But there was something inside me telling me that I could. And, it was really emotional when I got to the bottom because I couldn't believe that my body had carried me through that.
Yeah.
But that was testament to the 5.5 stones that I'd lost.
I think there's this thing, I sometimes say to patients a few months post-procedure when there's certain situations that crop up, and I like to say, just back yourself. I think you've got more, the day itself, and I'm keen to find out about this as well, the operation day. How was that? Because that's something that I think that's the ultimate thing to overcome. And once people overcome that, I think you can overcome anything. And how did that speaking to the surgeon and the day itself? How was all that?
Oh yeah, it was better than I could have imagined actually. It's nerve-wracking, of course it is. For anybody going into an operation, it's absolutely terrifying. But I think for me, the way that it was, the way that I was greeted by my surgeon and my anaesthetist as well, they both came and sat down with me individually, talked me through everything, talked my family through everything, so they knew what to expect. And they held my hand all the way through it.
Brilliant.
And all I can remember really is that it was a really, really good nap.
Yeah, right.
a real big deep sleep.
Wow.
But it was not as bad as I think what I'm pent up to be in my head, and probably what a lot of patients make it out to be in their head beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
And my recovery was just super swift and easy.
Highly professional surgeons, yes, of course, what they do physically is fantastic, but there is that empathy and that, they're the next layer of trust, aren't they? They need to be the ultimate trust, if you like. And you mentioned there about maybe that being something that can be worries people a little bit pre-op and when they're in their intro call. Is there anything else that comes up maybe that they're worried about post-op that they might not be available to them that they have before the operation at all?
I think with the nature of what we're talking about, being weight loss, being food, being things like that, a lot of people are terrified, and I mean terrified, of losing their social life.
Yeah.
They're worried that they're never going to be able to eat again, and that they're going to have to, eat like a rabbit, because that's what diet culture has always taught us, is that we can't eat this and we can't eat that and we can't drink this and we can't have that. And it all becomes so unrealistic, makes everybody miserable, and then they give up.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why the diet cycle goes over and over and over again. People don't feel like they can achieve a happy lifestyle and be at a healthier weight at the same time. So I think for a lot of people, it's that fear that they can't go out for a meal and enjoy things with their family and friends, when honestly, and I did worry about that a little bit myself as well, it couldn't be any further from the truth.
Well, I think I say this to patients post-op, is that actually it's part of the joy of the operation that nothing is off limits. You can have certain aspects. It's portion controlled, obviously.
Yeah.
In the early stages, liquid, puree, soft, there's levels to that, and some patients become maybe lactose intolerant. But over the course of time, it's quite rare that anything's off limits.
Yeah.
And that's part of the charm of the operation, isn't it? But I think we like the idea that we can have balance, and we can't have. How sick are people of in diet world saying you can't have this and you can't have that? That's not the game here, is it? And I think what people might perceive to be a high restriction, well, surely climbing mountains in Norway is the ultimate non-high restriction. That is living your life. It's doing wonderful things, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
And I've always found it interesting when you ask someone maybe 6 months more post-op what their biggest non-scale victory is. It's quite rarely a dress size. It's usually something that involves living and moving and doing.
Yeah.
And that's what's more exciting than that? And
Absolutely.
What's next for Mel? What's something that in the future, you got any more mountains you're climbing or anything?
I think what's next for me is just continuing on this journey. I think I would probably like to achieve maybe another stone.
Okay.
But that's my long-term goal. And I think it's good to have a short-term goal and a long-term goal. I've set out what I've set out to achieve in my first 6 months post-op. Now I'm in the latter 6 months. I think come April next year, when I'm 1 year post-op, I could quite easily hit that and sustain that. But I feel like for me, it's given me more drive and more passion about what I do, and guiding the patients. It gives me that real emotional connection to my patients.
Massively.
That I did have beforehand anyway, because I understood their struggle, but I feel like it's heightened even more so now.
Big time.
So I'm just really, really excited to see where things go with Tonic and with my patients, and looking after them and supporting them in the years to come.
I think we've got this lovely combination at Tonic now, where we've not just got people who've had the pleasure of supporting thousands of patients in the last few years. So just that knowledge and understanding and reps of helping people, but we've actually got yourself, Paul, who've actually been through the process as well. And that's a really powerful combination to not just an aftercare, but the intro care as well, right? The before care, the coordinating. And yeah, I've heard you on calls since having the operation. Obviously, you were marvelous beforehand, but you just naturally have that extra level of empathy, because of course you do. You can't go through that and not have that, can you? And that's tremendous. And yeah, I just think, just congratulations, Melissa. I mean, what an unbelievable story. Just not just the weight loss itself, but everything else it's brought with, and the fact that the patients inspired you to go and do that.
Oh yeah, I'm proud of every single last one of them.
Yeah,
all of them.
I think that's really lovely. And just thank you so much for coming on and sharing it. You don't have to do this, even though you work for the company. You know, it's something that's so powerful, and I know a lot of patients will resonate with this. And on the podcast, you have people who are listening in the future, and probably they'll be asking for you when they call up now. So there you go. Listen, guys, thank you so much for tuning in today.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed that, and we'll be back very soon. All the best. Bye bye.